And so they think that in order to get morality, you have to have a command from God. You have to have special revelation in order to know what's right and wrong, because you can't derive morality from reality, from the nature of things. So they bought into Hume, and that's one reason that many presuppositionalists diminish the value of general revelation, is because they think that, well, it can't tell you anything about morality. But that's directly contrary to what Paul teaches in Romans 1.
If you go to verse 28, you see a whole bunch of other things listed that Paul assumes you would know from general revelation, including, he says that these people were filled with all manner of unrighteousness, evil, covetousness, malice, and he goes on just sin after sin after sin. And then he points out in verse 32, though they know God's righteous decree that those who practice such things deserve to die. And then he says they approve and they practice. So they know God's righteous decree that somebody who's haughty deserves to die, that somebody who's insolent, somebody who hates God, somebody who's foolish, faithless, heartless, ruthless, whatever these things are, every one of them. How did they get the knowledge of all of those things from general revelation? What do you think?
I think it's inferred, and that's what we talk about when we talk about natural theologies. Natural theology, in a way, is just the study of general revelation, the study of nature, the study of what God has communicated about himself and about his creation through the natural world that he's created. And that comes from that terminology there in Romans 1 that Paul uses about doing things contrary to our nature. Our natures are revealed through general revelation. We can know things about humanity, about ourselves, that tell us that those things are wrong, that those things are contrary to our nature. And this is in contrast to many Christians today who agree with Hume. And unfortunately, this is most presuppositionalists agree with Hume, that you can't, quote unquote, get a ought from an is. And the meaning there is you can't look at nature and draw moral conclusions about what ought to be the case or what we ought to do. Hume argued that way, and many Christians, especially presuppositionalists, bought into that. And so they think that in order to get morality, you have to have a command from God. You have to have special revelation in order to know what's right and wrong, because you can't derive morality from reality, from the nature of things. So they bought into Hume, and that's one reason that many presuppositionalists diminish the value of general revelation, is because they think that, well, it can't tell you anything about morality. But that's directly contrary to what Paul teaches in Romans 1. Remember, in Romans 1, Paul is talking about those people who don't have special revelation. They don't have commands from God. And yet he's claiming that they can know the truth about what is moral and what is immoral, that they should have known it, and that they suppressed it, and that they're therefore culpable for suppressing what they should have and could have known.
I believe the position that presuppositionalists hold depends on the premises of Hume. Not only do they accept it, but I think their position depends on it. And one of the things is Hume is known as a skeptic in regard to whether we can know that there's such thing as cause and effect. I saw a meme about that called Hume the rebel without a cause. Mm-hmm. And then he also believes in the is-ought dichotomy concept, where you cannot get an ought from an is. And they will, in part of their arguments, they will say, therefore, how can we have knowledge of these spiritual things, except for by founding it on some authority and some statement from some authority? Mm-hmm. And that's just a fundamental difference between what you and I believe and what the classical Reformed position is about what we can know. And I think it's because they reject that you can know by general revelation that they substitute some other theory in place that is a workaround, so that therefore they can account for the fact that they do have knowledge, but they say you can only account for it by the means that we say.